beautiful people. I didn't feel like putting on makeup, so you're just gonna have to get over it. Part 2 about how the law of attraction really, actually works. Couple of things. I'm working on a video on everything that is in the Amanita muscaria mushroom, and we're going to get into the entourage effect. I am working on an oil-based topical for pain. Look for videos on that coming up in the middle of February. If it's after that, 2021, then it's already up and you'll go to the playlist tab to find it. I am working on restocking my Etsy store with my smoke blends. It takes a long time to make them. They sell out quickly. If nothing is there, then give it 2 or 3 weeks. Don't forget, we have live videos the second Saturday of every month. And on Patreon, we have Zoom meetings once a month. That is everything. Is that everything? Okay, buy me a coffee if you feel like this information is good information. You can find it in the description. You can find links to the forum, the Amanita Research Forum, where you can get support for anything that you're dealing with. Everything is in the description. It started with, and it starts with, the Stargate program. And the thoughts become things, the ability to remote view and then remote influence. That's where all the research started back in the 60s and 70s. They just released all that information, and a lot of people in their early 20s are on TikTok talking about it and are going through it. And if you've done mushrooms and you've checked out ego death, which is really just being able to get into the higher dimensions and higher realms, when you get there, it's pretty easy to manifest. You think, and then there it is. The problem is you're stuck in this meat sack where you're trying to make things happen. So how can you actually affect your reality stuck in this human? And here's the thing about it. It's not mysterious, but also thoughts don't just become things as you're normally living your life, right? So when you think about actual science and the physics of reality and the world around you, energy is energy. So if it's electrical energy or if it's momentum, you know the formula. F equals ma, right? Force equals mass times acceleration. So what that means is this. Force is what you're actually going to get out of all that effort. Mass and acceleration, I use this as an example when I used to teach science. Mass is how much something weighs. Acceleration is the speed at which you're hurling it forward. So if I were to take a feather with almost no mass, but move it rapidly and hit you in the face with it, is it going to create any force and hurt you? No. Likewise, if I have a baseball bat, but I move it very slowly at your face, is it going to cause force and hurt you? No. No mass and no acceleration equals no force. However, lots of density, lots of mass, lots of speed, a baseball bat coming at you with someone who's really muscular and strong, swinging it as fast as they can, could kill you, right? So you understand force equals mass times acceleration. Also, there is such a thing as momentum. You also intuitively understand this. If you are on a bicycle on the interstate and all of a sudden you see a bunch of cars stopped on the interstate and you were barely pedaling in a hypothetical world, all you would have to do is put your feet on the ground and stop. Likewise, if an 18-wheeler truck is doing 90 and all of a sudden they come over a hill and cars are stopped on the interstate, that is going to be hopeless. You don't take something with that much mass and that much acceleration and stop it. It's got too much velocity coming out of pushing it forward, right? So when you think about the same thing happening with the energy that's in your body, because your thoughts do absolutely carry energy, and when they are loaded with emotion, then they have more mass, for lack of a better word, because we as humans have yet to be able to give these things words and quantify emotional energy. If you have a thought like you stub your toe on something and it barely hurts and it sort of trips you, you barely notice it, and you go on with your life, you keep moving forward. Is that one negative moment going to now create this cascading effect for the rest of your day? Probably not. if you wake up and you find out someone broke in or hacked your account and took all your money, and then broke into your car and took all your belongings and broke into your house and took everything, like, that is kind of a huge event. And they took all of your access. Is that likely to now trigger a cascade of negative events in your life? Likely. Does that mean you're a bad person? No. Does that mean that something is wrong with you if you can't just ignore it and keep manifesting beautiful things? Well, of course not. Because it would be like you're on that bike on the interstate and something comes from the side and just hits you. Like that, it's force, it's mass times acceleration, right? That's massive force. I was a very happy person until Hurricane Katrina. And it was a huge blow to my life, which I actually was able to do okay with. But over time, when there were more and more blows coming because of it, and more negative, huge life-altering events happening one after another, eventually, it took me down, and it put me so far down that climbing back out of that took almost 15 years. So you're not a bad person if you have come from a lifetime of negative behaviors and abuse and mental health issues, or you were born perfectly normal with just a neurodiversity or difference, but you were abused because of it, or if you had shitty parents, or you were in an alcoholic home. That truck hit you from the side, or it hit you repeatedly with enough acceleration and mass that it created a force that became a permanent part of your life. And so you don't move something like that overnight. Likewise, if you're a really chill person, like your house gets broken into, you could probably handle that and all of the subsequent paperwork and phone calls and constantly learning another thing that's gone, and sort of the fear of locking your windows and doors more, but then, getting past that, you know what I mean? But if you have just dealt with massive life blows and then the system did more bullshit to you, if you manage to still be here after all of that, and you're trying to get off those medications, which definitely dull your positive momentum and flow and energy, depending on what that medication is, then, you've got to really forgive yourself, because you have a lot of momentum going in the negative energy direction. And like that 18-wheeler barreling down the interstate, you don't just stop that and then turn it around and send it in the other direction. It takes time. I love you, beautiful people.